So many years ago, in a place called the United Kingdom, there was a man called Edward Jenner. He noticed that a lot of people in his country got a disease called cowpox, which was a kind of a virus that would spread from cows to human beings. But it was okay. But later, what he saw was a lot of people in the United Kingdom were getting affected by a disease called smallpox. Have you ever heard of that disease?
Yes, I've heard of that. You get lot of blisters on the body and you can't even touch stuff. It's kind of a lot of pain.
Yeah, that's kind of right. So in the UK, a lot of people were coming down with smallpox. It was a very virulent kind of a disease. Then this Edward Jenner noticed that all those people who had earlier got cowpox, they were not falling ill with smallpox at all. So that got him thinking, there must be something that protects the body, that if you get a cowpox first, then you won't get a smallpox later. So he decided to test his idea. One day when his milkmaid, the lady who delivers milk from her cow, when she was coming home, he noticed that she had cowpox. So when she came to the door, he requested her that, there is this tiny little sore on your hand that you have with this cowpox. Could I please take a little bit of it? So he extracted a little bit of that cowpox from that sore in her hand inside a syringe. And there was an 8-year-old boy called Phillips whom he wanted to test this on. So he went and injected that same cowpox virus into Phillips. What do you think happened after a virus was injected into Phillips' body?
Either he might have got the cowpox or else it must have prevented him from getting cowpox.
Start preventing him. Achha, you thought that far ahead. No, I think for the moment he just got cowpox. So he got cowpox, he fell ill a little bit, he had fever for a day or two. He was a little tired, but in a week's time he was completely normal, he was up and running. So now he knows that he's given him cowpox. Edward Jenner knows this. But his real theory that he wanted to test was, if someone who's gotten cowpox, if they get smallpox, are they able to fight that? So what do you think Edward Jenner did next?
He must have taken the smallpox, that swelling in an injection and put it in Phillips again.
Yes, that's exactly what he did. A few months later, he took smallpox, a live form of a smallpox, and put it inside Phillips' body. And Phillips did not fall ill. So, Edward Jenner was the first man who formally tried out a hypothesis that if you take a live virus of something and if you put it inside someone's body, it can act actually as a preventive measure from falling ill. So it was the first instance of, I shouldn't call it actually the first instance, wait, but I should set the story right. Edward Jenner was not the first man ever to vaccinate someone. Many centuries ago, many parts of the world, it was very common. Even in Turkey, about 1,000 years ago, people in Turkey would regularly vaccinate themselves against smallpox. So Edward Jenner was the first person whom we all know from amongst the modern day scientists who created the first vaccine to prevent smallpox in someone. Hi, you're listening to What's New Today, a kids and family podcast about current events shaping your world. This is Sangeeta, your host from India, and joining me in this episode to talk about this year's Nobel Prize for Medicine is...
Hello, I am Rhea. I study in Aspinotson Academy and I am 12 years old.
Welcome, Rhea. How excited were you to read that little piece of news about this Nobel Prize for Medicine? Did you even understand what people are talking about?
I understood a bit, not everything.
What did you understand?
Caitlin Carrico and Drew Weissman won the prize I think because they must have discovered how Edward's theory worked.
How Edward's theory worked? Something like that, right? They discovered a way of vaccinating people. Before this, I just wanted to ask you, have you heard the words Nobel Prizes before?
Yes, I know that Rabindranath Tagore had got a Nobel Prize. Even Mother Teresa had got one.
Wow, so you have heard of the word Nobel Prize and you've heard of even 2 Nobel laureates. Wow. So these scientists who won the Nobel Prize this year for medicine, what they discovered was not how vaccines work, but they figured out a different way of vaccinating people. So in the example I told you earlier about Edward Jenner, right? In that example, we saw Edward Jenner taking a virus from one person's body and putting it into another person's body. But the scientists who won the Nobel Prize this year figured a different way of vaccinating people where you don't even have to take the inactive virus.
They found out the use of mRNA, messenger RNA.
Its main job is it's a messenger. Like it'll send your body a message on how to replicate or make a protein. So what these 2 scientists discovered is instead of taking the whole virus itself and putting it into your body, let's take the messenger RNA of that virus, send that messenger into somebody's body. So the messenger will go. Let's say somebody injected an mRNA into me. The messenger will enter my body and tell Sangeeta, now it's time for you to make this protein. And immediately when my body hears this message, it'll start making a certain kind of a protein, which is the same kind of protein that you'll have inside the virus. Then what will my body do? It will now understand that anything that looks like this protein or behaves like this protein is not to be allowed to enter this person's body and we need to fight. So what do you think will happen if I came in contact with the actual virus itself next, after I've got this mRNA into my body?
If you have got the actual virus, the body might fight, means preventing the virus from affecting you or reproducing.
You are spot on, 100% correct.
Is this all too much for a 7th grader to
It's
understand?
but for a 10th grader, it will be very easy to understand.
Very easy. Okay. You have a younger sibling, no, in your house?
She is 6.
How would you tell your 6-year-old sibling about this?
I would kind of make it into a story.
Okay, I'm mighty curious to know what story you would make up.
There was a small girl who was named Nana, who was roaming around, and then one day she had to get a vaccination, which is an injection, which was like a pack of soldiers, and it would be put in her body, which would go in one of her big team, which was called a cell, and then it would prepare the cell and make a full army to fight against a monster which they thought would come. And suddenly when the monster entered, the whole army started fighting and won.
Kudos, amazing. So you're the primary entertainer for your sister in your house?
Kind of, yeah. Sometimes we both are for each other.
How lovely. I think I should request you to host a few of these podcast episodes. You're better at telling stories than I am. So that kind of brings us to the end of this episode. But at the end of each episode, we have something interesting and fun. What do you think that is?
Quiz time.
Yes. Shall we do the quiz time now? Before we start the 3 questions, let's mention the names of the Nobel Prize winners once more, a little more clearly.
Yes.
I'll do it for you, don't worry. So the names of the winners are Catalin Carrico and Drew Weissman. Catalin Carrico is now a professor at a university in Hungary. She also teaches at the University of Pennsylvania. Drew Weissman also teaches at the University of Pennsylvania. So let's just get those facts right and then jump into our quiz time. How do you want to do it? Do you want me to ask you 3 questions based on what we just spoke, or would you like to ask me 3 questions?
I think you could ask.
I can ask. All right. Question 1. Who is credited to have created amongst the earliest vaccines for smallpox?
Edward Jenner.
Wonderful. Question 2. From whose hand did Edward Jenner take a little bit of the cowpox?
From his milkmaid.
Yes. Question 3. So this year's Nobel Prize for Medicine, what is the kind of vaccine they've discovered?
They have used mRNA in their vaccines. They found out that mRNA is a new technology of giving vaccinations.
Absolutely right. Wonderful. Rhea, it was a lot of fun chatting with you, especially hearing your wonderful story to explain vaccination to your 6-year-old sister. So before we wrap up this episode, I know you've been quite a regular in listening to our podcast on this channel before. What episodes did you really like that you'd recommend to our listeners?
The episode 27 of season 2. It was about a dog who saves 3 children, and the dog's name was Moose.
You love that episode. How wonderful. For those dog lovers who love to catch up on real news about dogs from around the world, you can find link to this episode that Rhea has just recommended in our show notes below.
Even the entire space series, that was really fun, about Chandrayaan 3.
10, 9, 8, 7.
So for those of our
5,
listeners who've not
4,
caught up
3,
on our space series, there's a
1.
set of 8 episodes that we had published earlier, which traces the entire journey of how India sent the first rocket from its shore right up to the successful landing of Chandrayaan 3 on Moon. It's a set of 8 episodes. And I know that Rhea heard all of them because she participated in a quiz that we also had about the space series. She was one of the best performers in the quiz. We'll leave a link to those episodes also in the show notes below. Thank you so much, Rhea. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had too, chatting about vaccination and monsters.
Yes.
New episodes on What's New Today come out every Monday and Friday.
Thanks for listening.